Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
Hello everyone, welcome to this, the Essential Apple Podcast, number 150. Yes, we made it. It's a bloody miracle. There we are. Joining me this week, I have Nick Spligosh Riley, and we're going to take a look at the stories of the week. So, how are you, Nick?
I'm very well, thanks, Simon. Yeah, good to be back and having a chat about the news.
Yep, there's quite a lot going on this week. So, the first story I put down here was a lot of people were muttering that Catalina was probably going to launch to the public on, I think they said the 6th. No, can't have been the 6th, can it? Anyway, earlier this week, and it didn't. And what actually shipped instead was Catalina Beta 9, and just so the listeners know, literally, while Nick and I were setting up for this show, I got an alert that said a new update is available for this Macintosh. Yes, Catalina 10 dropped. Like moments before we started recording. So there we go. That means
they're obviously not quite ready yet, are they?
That means I don't think Catalina's launching in the next few days either. No Goldmaster, not yet, as far as I can tell. There we are. And iOS 13.2. I wondered how long I'd be on iOS 13, 0.1 or whatever. Well, days. Literally about 2 days, I think it was.
I've only just updated to 13.1.2.
Yeah, well, I went from 13.1 to 13.1.2, I think, and then about 2 days later, 13.2 beta 1. So there we are. Ah, dear. So there we are. And listeners, you may have noticed that I said I was on Catalina because, yes, Loopback has updated to a version which runs on Catalina, which means no more running my Macintosh from the slow USB backup drive in Mojave to record the show. Hurrah! Hurrah!
Cheering sound effect.
Rioting in the streets. No, it's nice. I mean, it was working. I had it working. And despite the fact that Rogue Amoeba themselves describe Audio Hijack as not working under Catalina, I've had it working under Catalina for some time. The only reason I couldn't record the show on Catalina was because Loopback wasn't working, which meant I couldn't feed my audio out to my recorders. So there we go. I probably could have got round it if I wanted, but it was easier just to go with the workflow and boot in Mojave. But no more doing that. Hooray! What else? Well, of course, this week, 8 years since Steve passed away. Can you believe it? Yes. Can you believe it?
Gone very quickly indeed.
Doesn't time fly past? So, Tim Cook, of course, offered a tribute to Steve Jobs on his 8th anniversary. Link here to Apple Insider. I think he said something along the lines of, remembering Steve's comment, the greatest, most precious resource you have is time. So there you go. Rest in peace, Steve. Really?
Yeah.
And of course, Tim Cook's been pretty busy this week, hasn't he? He's been in Europe. I don't know. Did you see the pictures of him in? There was pictures of him at Oktoberfest, downing a large.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
No, it was on Twitter. There was pictures of him downing a large stein of beer at the Oktoberfest. Some wag said Tim Cook checking the fall detection on his Apple Watch the correct way, which was quite witty.
Like
I thought that was rather witty. Yeah. Yes. So Apple in 9 to 5 Mac have got a piece. Tim Cook was in Italy and he gave a speech to some students where he was talking about climate change, fake news, and quite a lot more. Well, all the usual things, of course. He said quite clearly that Apple feel that working to be as green as possible and to protect the environment they don't do it for any other reason than they feel it's a moral imperative, which is quite good. Yeah, we make renewable energy a priority not because of regulation, but because it is a moral imperative. There we go.
Jolly good.
He's also, of course, yes, of course, very much. He's also submitted what's known as an amicus brief, which is basically registering support for a case in the American courts in support of DACA, commonly known as the Dreamers program, because he believes that people who've grown up in the US, even if they arrived as children illegally, should not be booted out and should have the right to become registered citizens. So,
good.
And then what have we got here? Fake news is one of the negatives of the internet. The internet has brought many positive things, but fake news is one of the negatives. As lovers of democracy and freedom, we must think that separating false from true is the basis of freedom. Quality journalism is the foundation of every democracy, and an open and free press is essential. Take from that what you will. Other than the obvious, perfectly clear statement, if you want to read a subtext into that, feel free. And he said
he certainly doesn't mind. He certainly doesn't mind getting stuck into some fairly weighty political matters, really, does he?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Which I think is quite nice. The fact
it's
that
refreshingly
kind of out there and not a lot. Yes, exactly.
Saying what he really thinks rather than what he thinks he should be saying.
It might be because Apple's such a big, powerful company that he feels he can pretty much do that. It might also be because he appears to be able to call President Trump and shout at him. But
it could be.
I don't know, but it is quite. Yes, it's nice to hear somebody, I think, in that sort of position saying, we do this or we do that because we think it is right and not because of the bottom line.
Yeah.
Because you do get a lot of weaselly, mealy-mouthed kind of output from a lot of companies, don't you? That, yeah, well, I won't name any specifically, but you can probably guess who I'm talking about. And he reinforced the idea that Apple does not treat users as a product and does not sell or give away user data. There we go.
Jolly good. That's what we like to hear.
All good things. As he said, he left the students with a final piece of advice about smartphones. Smartphones must bring you closer to those who are far away. Do not move away from those who are close to you. If you spend more time looking at your smartphones instead of people's eyes, you are wrong. We make products to help you and not to waste your time. Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, fair enough comment, I guess. Fair enough comment.
Yeah, he does make devices that are very easy distracting, though, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
I understand what he's saying, but
I think what he's I think what he's saying is it's down to you. It's not.
Yeah,
our
of course it is.
It's not our fault if we're trying to advise you. You don't isolate yourself with your phone. Use it to bring you closer
No.
to people who are far away from you. Here we are. So good on Uncle Tim standing up and saying what he thinks. I think now, and I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think I disagree with any of that. I think it's all true. So there we
No,
are.
that sounds very admirable.
There. Now this one, I'm going to enjoy this one, Nick. I'm going to enjoy this one. Apple have increased production of the iPhone 11 line, allegedly by as much as 10%. And this story, the one I've got, is from Apple Insider. Guess what I'm going to say? What do you think I'm going to say, Nick?
I don't know. What are you going to say, Simon?
I'm going to say, told you so. Who remembers all those stories before the launch of the 11th? Told ya it was going to be boring and ugly.
A failure.
A miserable failure. Apple was doomed. Sales were going to collapse. Total disaster. Why is anybody even thinking about it? You should all be worrying about the 2020 released iPhone. Apparently not. Not only is every article on the web praising it as the fabulous iPhone, the most fabulousest iPhone ever with the greatest cameras and blah, 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 blah. It's such a failure they've had to increase production by 10%. Oh, my heart bleeds.
I'll tell you a little story.
Yes.
I'll tell you a little story. I foolishly, about a week before the announcements about the iPhone, the latest iPhone, I suddenly had an urge to go and buy a second-hand 10R. And so I went to Music Magpie and decided to buy one from there. And I'd had it a week, and then, of course, all the announcements came out. And the 10R was now cheaper than I'd actually paid Music Magpie.
Oh, dear.
Fortunately, I was within 14 days of their no-quibble return guarantee. Wow. So I immediately returned it and then had a look at the differential between that and the 11 and thought, go for it. Yeah. So I bought myself an 11.
There we go. Why not, indeed? Why not?
Yes. And I've got to say is thank you to Sony and to Microsoft because selling two consoles enabled me to buy my new iPhone 11.
Oh dear. Well, there we are. Well, actually, this one isn't in the notes per se, actually, but we were talking about it before, and this is a good place to go onto it, talking about consoles, and that is Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade, because you asked me if I'd tried the Apple Arcade, which I have.
I did.
Yes, I signed up for the free trial, and I've only really tried one game so far, I'll be honest, which is a game called Spaceland, which is described as fast-moving sci-fi tactical RPG, which is a bit of a mouthful for what is actually a sort of squad skirmish game. It's an isometric view, and you have your little people, and you go into the rooms, and as you move, you reveal what is in there, and the little alien critters and whatnot attack you. And if anybody has ever played a tabletop skirmish game, they'll know roughly how it works. That each character has a certain number of movement points that they can expend, and they move and turn and shoot and activate doors and switches and so on. And actually, those games are very good on the computer because you don't have to do all the working out in your head. So, you select a character, and in this Spaceland, all the squares that are green you can move to and still have enough points to shoot. If you move on to the grey squares, you can. That's as far as you can move, but you can't shoot anymore. There are blue squares which indicate there's some cover and so on. Not a bad little game, quite a simplistic kind of game. On the phone, and I have an XR, as you know, it's a bit tiny. I can't read the dialogue because it's too small. It plays.
Oh, yeah.
The interface is quite nice because it's simply tap. You tap on a character, then you tap, go here, and tap on a highlighted target if you want to shoot it or activate it, or kick a barrel or whatever else it is you want to do. Not too bad. it becomes a bit frustrating in times when it misreads your tap. There's nothing more annoying than manoeuvring into a position where you can shoot at an alien, and then when you tap on him to shoot him, it misreads it as run up next to him using all your movement points, which I can assure you is often critically deadly, because at that point, you run up to the alien shoots you, you die, then you don't have enough characters to complete the mission, and you have to start the level again, which is exceedingly frustrating. No,
I can imagine.
The other one that it does occasionally, which is nothing really to do with your tapping, occasionally you'll tap, go over there, and instead of going the direct route, the character will go all the way around the room using up all their movement points for reasons. No need to the algorithm. Anyway, other than the fact that, it's a bit tiny and sometimes therefore misreads your taps, it's not a bad game. I don't have an iPad to try it on. I'm pretty sure on a nice, 10, 9, 10, 11, whatever iPad, it would be quite nice. So I thought, I'll try it on the Apple TV. That would be all right, wouldn't it? And I'd put it up on my big TV, and I can use my iPhone as a controller. And I fully expected that they would simply map the phone interface onto the TV screen and give you a virtual finger that you moved with your trackpad, to tap on the various controls. But no, they didn't. They really didn't. You have this weird interface where you have to have to hold your finger down for about 3/4 of a second to register a tap. You have to use the menu button to bring up all the other options. But be careful. If you don't just tap the menu button, but hold it down for a split second, it will do the menu button thing and back you out of your game. And then when you do get the bit which is supposed to be, the equivalent of your finger tapping what you move or select or whatever, you have to hold down for 3/4 of a second on a character until you get the highlighted square, and then you have to move that with your trackpad, but it moves very slowly, but yet sometimes you take your finger off and it keeps on moving. So it's incredibly frustrating, and it seems like the most wrong-headed interface for the TV ever. Why didn't they just give you a virtual finger and emulate exactly how it worked on the phone? I didn't get that at all. So I gave that up in about 20 minutes because the interface was so slow and cumbersome that I couldn't bear it. There we go. That's the only game I've tried so far, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've tried 2 or 3. I tried Sonic Racing.
Right.
I also tried a sort of 3D pick things up and fight baddies and that kind of thing, called Oceanhorn 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I also tried another racing game called Agent Intercept, all on my iPad. I just felt that overall that I'd seen much better graphically, much better games graphically on the iPad than the ones I'd tried. I mean, it might be that there are others out there that are particularly good, but I quite like graphical rich interfaces, and so far the ones I've tried are a bit sort of, cartoony.
I did notice that there's quite a lot of isometric games like the Spaceland thing, and also there's a lot in a sort of a very distinct 2D cartoon style.
Yeah, so I think what I was saying just before we started, wasn't I, that at the moment they haven't convinced me that it's worth me paying $4.99 for. There may be many people out there who really think it's absolutely the bee's knees, and they're absolutely going for it. But I'm not a great game player anyway, so even if it had been quite good, I probably wouldn't have subscribed simply because I play games often enough.
I'm not a huge player of games, but then, for example, there was the Angry Birds Racing, which obviously is some time ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Now, I mean, that was a simple mobile game. You could play it on your phone or your iPad or, on the Apple TV. We played it on the Apple TV mostly. well, actually, tell a lie, not on the Apple TV. We would cast it up to the Apple TV, so you would use your iPhone to actually control the game, but watch out on the big
I
screen.
noticed that quite a few of them as well expect you to have a controller to control them with, and I'm guessing that's obviously going to be a better interface than trying to do anything on your iPad or your phone.
Yeah. I mean, some games, but at the moment, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't be. I haven't seen any games in the arcade. Because if you're going to say we're going to have these games on the arcade, and you can use a full blown controller, which I've got a link. We'll talk about that in a second. Where are the games like I don't know, Call of Duty or what's the other one that people are big on? But you know what I mean. Medal of Honor, the first-person shooters, or the more complicated games, the more console-like games. Now, I don't think Apple Arcade is pitched to go up against console games particularly.
No, I don't think it is. Without a doubt, the sort of racing games are going to benefit from a controller.
Yes.
Simply because of nature of trying to control something on a sort of like a 3D track, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think there are going to be. I think the type of games we're going to get, the type of games that are in there now, and I don't think it's trying to compete with the actual arcade consoles. It's aiming at a different group of people.
I mean, yes, it might simply be that you and I are not really the target market, Nick. I mean,
I'm sure that's true.
I mean, the sort of mobile games that I have tended to pick up and play for a little bit, in the past are things like the Temple Run, or I've got this thing called Off-Road Racer or something, which they're really simple little games. They don't involve very.
Yeah, I must admit, I tend to get hooked on one particular game for quite a long time because I'm not very good at them. Is one reason that I played them for a long time, and the other thing is they have got adverts, quite a lot of them, which is irritating. But you see, I'm very much of the nature that if I get to a point where I've got to wait an hour, I think, well, that's a good excuse to stop playing it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really bother me that much.
No, that's true. I mean, I did for a while quite like playing the Angry Birds racing. That did slightly suffer from the, you're out of energy, just give us £1 or go away for an hour and a half. And I was like, well, I'll go away for an hour and a half. That's enough. I've obviously been playing more than enough. But yeah, at the moment, I'm not convinced. There's a huge market out there for people who love. I think my view of mobile games is I want something really simple.
Yeah. You see, I've played one or two. I'm quite into puzzle solving games, and they may be 2D platformers effectively, but they graphically look really nice, and they're puzzle solving games, and those are the ones I tend to like. Now, I haven't actually found any of those on there. If someone does know of any, if they want to let me know, I'll give them a try.
The sort of game which would catch my interest on there would be something like The Room. Are you familiar with The Room games?
Oh yeah, I do know. Yeah, I've heard of it. I did try it once and found it a bit slow for me.
Yeah, but that's a graphically intensive. Centered around it, would work nicely on an iPad. You could, rotate around the puzzles and whatnot. Anyway, but I'd like to see more things like that. But that's me. So I don't know. Yeah. And it's early days. It's early days.
It is early days. Yeah, we'll see how things go.
But
the good thing about subscription, of course, is that you can dip in and out as you feel free. So
yeah. I mean, I don't have. I just got the distinct impression, certainly from the Spaceland game, that had been designed very much with an iPad in mind and shrunk down to work on the phone, which is just about doable. If you've got better eyes than me, you could probably still read the bloody dialogue. But the television, I just didn't get the TV implementation of it at all. It was just like, you seem to have gone the most difficult route. Why didn't you just give me a virtual finger and let me effectively play it on a bigger screen? But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to possibly try a few more. I downloaded one which was called what's it called? Outland or something, and I couldn't even get past the first screen. I can't understand it. There's it starts off, there appear to be people rioting, and there's a car, and I assume you're supposed to get in the car and make your escape, but I couldn't get it to do anything.
Couldn't work it out.
Couldn't work that one out.
You obviously need to be a younger person to be able to sort that one out.
I downloaded another one, which said some sort of epic story based around Norse myths or something, and it was. I only got about 3 minutes into that because they were like weirdly drawn cartoon characters talking. There was a lot of so and so says something, tap. So and so tells tap, tap, tap as you get through this boring dialogue. And then the first puzzle was, can you tune this lute? And it was like tap, tap, tap. Right, that's done. I thought, well, that's enough of that. I'm sure the puzzles will get more difficult, but if they're going to be interspersed with 400 taps reading incredibly tedious dialogue, that's not for me. So, yeah, not a great start from my point of view. There we are.
Okay.
Never mind. What else? What else have we got? Apple. There's lots of things going on. Apple dropped huge hints about its first AR glasses, according to Wired.
Yeah. I keep talking about AR glasses, don't they?
They do.
Well, not Apple don't, but
no, Apple don't. Apple don't say anything about it, other than that. I mean, Tim. I think Tim has kind of implied that he's very interested in it. This mostly comes down to the fact, I think it's Troughton Smith, is it, has been digging around. Some of this goes back a couple of weeks, by the way. First, there was Starboard. At the beginning of September, a leaked build of iOS 13 was found to contain a README file which referred to Starboard, a system allowing developers to view stereo-enabled AR apps on the iPhone, and also included an app called Star Tester, which did exactly that. And if you follow the links, you can see it in action.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the Wired article goes into quite some depth, so if you're interested in that, it's worth a read. Part of the talk here is about the fact that Apple have made 2 acquisitions. They acquired a company called Vervana, apparently, Vervana, I suppose. And their product apparently was a mixed reality headset, but it uses pass-through front-facing cameras to deliver video to the user, rather than the more complicated technology that's used in things like the HoloLens. So there's quite a lot in here. It's interesting. I mean, I am still convinced that Apple will bring out AR glasses. But I think a lot of the discussion always seems to be, well, how will you do it without them, being honking great headsets?
I think the big issue with lenses generally is you've got to cater for people like me who wear glasses, and you can't just produce glasses that are fixed vision lenses. I mean, somehow you've got to be able to get prescription lenses in whatever you do, otherwise you're cutting out a huge proportion of the population.
Yes, very much. Now, I'm in 2 minds about this. I mean, there's the Amazon frames route, where the Amazon frames have got
audio,
no lenses.
effectively.
Yeah, they have Alexa audio and no more, and they adjust the frames so you can put your own lenses in.
Yeah.
Which is one route you could go down. The other, I guess, would be to do something which, in some way, could be attached to your glasses frames.
That's always going to look really clunky, though.
Yeah,
I just think I mean, Apple are the best people to do it, in all honesty, because if you're going to do it, you need to somehow involve all the companies that supply glasses. And let's face it, in the UK, that isn't a huge number.
No, it's not really.
And so somehow you've got to work in conjunction with these people. And as I say, Apple are good at doing that. They're good at working with publishers of films and all that sort of stuff. So they're used to working with other companies. Yeah, I think, like you, I think it's a matter of time. But I think they've got to think through the fact that you can't just make glasses and expect everyone to wear them.
Oh no,
because that isn't going to work.
I think perhaps that their direction with the watch might also give you a clue, because with the watch, they, for pretty much the first time, ventured into a wide range of straps. You can have leather straps and Milanese loop straps and whatever, metal, metal link bracelets and all sorts. Now, I very much think that when they do release something, that what a lot of people seem to keep going on about is, the amount of compute power that's required. But I'm pretty sure that Apple would go for something that doesn't have really any compute power. It's simply a peripheral to your phone.
A little bit like the first watch, pretty much.
Yes, I think very much the point would be to have an AR delivering, pair of glasses.
As long as I haven't got to strap my phone to the side of my head, I'll be fine.
Yeah. But I could see that if they could, like you say, if they could work, I mean, I don't know about the US or elsewhere, but if you could work with people who sell frames, even if you start only with the large chains, you could effectively say, we do, so you go to your optician, you do your the usual, and then you say, and I'd like, do you have Apple frames?
Yeah, and that would be it. Apple would do their own frame, and that frame would be available through your optician, effectively.
Yes, and you
just order lenses for that frame, and I mean, it's quite possible. I wouldn't have said it was that hard, but I think it is something that needs to be considered right up front.
Oh yes, very much so.
For absolutely self reasons.
Yeah.
because I wear glasses.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure they would, not be cheap, and they probably look a bit make you all look like Joe 90, but I'm sure I'm sure Apple
I always wanted to be Joe 90.
Yeah. Or Brains. We could look like Brains out of Thing with these giant Elvis Costello-esque lenses on, like giant versions of National Health specs of the 60s. But I could go for that. I could go for that, to be honest. No doubt they would be bloody expensive frames, but
would it end up being? Do you remember? People of the UK who are of a certain age will remember the Harmony hairspray adverts. She's wearing Harmony hairspray. It'll be he's an Apple user. Look at his glasses.
Yep. Well, as long as they come in other colours than bloody white with an Apple logo on them, I'll be all right. I don't really want to walk around looking like one of those dangerously bronzed, bleached blonde, beach bums in, who wear those awful white framed sunglasses. There we go.
Yes,
anyway,
rather than a pasty white Englishman. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm quite happy to be a pasty white Englishman with my socks in my sandals. Thank you very much.
I hope something is coming. I really do, because I really like the idea of having the stuff available to you without having to do a lot to get it. Do you know what I mean? And providing you with information. I mean, I think I told you a little while ago about the demo that I saw at one of the shows recently, where they were showing directions that actually project themselves onto the road effectively in front of you. So when you have to turn right up ahead, you actually see an image projected in 3D ahead of you on the road.
Turn right here. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the first and commonest uses that people think of, and I'm sure people think of lots of others. But yeah, I think it's something that's coming. Exactly when? I'm not going to be one of these people who says, "Oh, Apple's AR glasses are coming out in 2020 or 2021." They'll come out when they're bloody well good and ready. I think
and if they don't work, Apple won't do it. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah,
they're not going to do it just because people like the idea.
I think also Apple will, in the same way as they worked with the carriers, initially to get that iPhone out there, it will be a matter of striking deals with people to carry the frames.
Yeah, could be.
And I mean, there could be a lot of money changing hands in that, because if somebody thinks, effectively carrying the Apple glasses and having exclusivity will bring you a lot of customers, bearing in mind how successful the iPhone is, a lot of people say, well, all right, not every single iPhone user is necessarily going to want to come and get Apple glasses, but a large number might. So there could be big money in that. So there's deals to be struck with whomsoever. To get a couple, 2 or 3 years of exclusivity of carrying the Apple frames could be worth a lot of money.
Bring it on, Apple. Bring it on.
Bring it on. This one, software engineer from the Safari team is now managing a new team at Apple whose goal is to solve problems with accounts, authentication, and passwords. So, interesting, yes. A new task force as such, run by previous Safari team member Ricky Mondello. I picked this one up from a tweet by Ricky Mondello themselves. Ricky apparently is, prefers to be non-binary, so they should be referred to as they, apparently. There you go, each their own. I don't have a problem with that. I'll be interested to see where this leads. A special team tackling accounts, authentication, and passwords.
Maybe one day we really will be able to merge iPhone accounts.
Yeah, yes.
And people have wanted to be able to do that for so long.
And maybe I won't keep getting this thing where it decides my password's no good and I have to bloody do a load of dancing around iCloud to get it to work again.
Yes.
That's always fun when it suddenly decides that, no, that's not your password, when it was like my password 30 seconds ago. Thank you. There we are.
The joys of passwords.
And while we were talking about passwords, then as a spring off from there, the security and privacy story this week is Comcast, MasterCard, and Samsung pour millions into a password-killing startup. This links to Fortune. This company have raised. They're called Hyper, HYPR, and they have plenty of supporters. They sell authentication software apparently to MasterCard, Attainer, Rakuten, and T-Mobile. And they've just raised $18.3 million in a funding round led by the venture capital arm of Comcast. And they have raised up a total of $32 million in VC support to date. Even my passwords have passwords, he said.
That's passwords,
yeah. Well, actually, I know exactly what he means, because I use LastPass, and to get into LastPass, if it logs me out, is a bit of a dance. I have to go to the authenticator, authenticate, then go to LastPass, then I can go, then I go to the keychain to get the to get the password for LastPass to unlock my vault. That is very much how it works, and I don't know the passwords to any of them. There we are.
Yeah, I've got a First Direct account, and I don't use it very often. But of course, every time I change my phone, you have to re-authenticate it, and to do that, I have to ring them up, and I can never remember anything. So, because I use them so rarely, I can't remember what my passwords are. And so I have to give them all my details, and then they have to send me an email, and then I have to respond to the email, and then I have to have secondary passwords for something else. I've never been able to work it out.
No.
I mean, it's just so complex. And eventually he says, "Oh, there you go. You're fixed." And I know that 2 weeks later, if I bring them up again, I won't be able to remember anything.
Won't be able to remember a single thing, no. Anyway, this Hyper apparently does things differently. The startup's tech stores private cryptographic keys on mobile devices. In practice, logging in becomes as simple as tapping a button on your phone. Right, we've taken the public key encryption used in smart cards, except without a card, and put it on your mobile phone, eliminating your password.
Okay.
He aspires to kill the shared secret, including PIN codes, social security numbers, credit card numbers, and so on.
Did you hear Bart and Alison talking about? I'm not going to be able to remember what it's called. It's using private and public keys, but on the web.
No, I haven't listened to that one yet. Yes, I know what it's the new.
Because that's very good. That sounds really exciting if that comes. So that uses your public key, and it delivers the web page to you encrypted with your public key, so that you're the only one who can view it because you've got your private key.
Yes.
I just thought it sounded fascinating, and if that really does become commonplace, that's going to mean that we need far less passwords.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
This is all. I mean, all of these people. This is not this one. I picked up because there was obviously a big piece about it here. But it's the same sort of thing as people like Proton and Wire and various other people. You've got things like the YubiKey, and all these things are all working on ways to eliminate passwords, because we all know passwords are...
Because we can't remember them.
Well, passwords are terrible. Passwords are rubbish. It's a dreadful way to...
Even when we've got cool tools like 1Password, or one of the other password managers, it's still a bit of a pain, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's still a drag. And then, I try and use either the keychain or LastPass to generate the passwords now.
Complex
so they're 16, 20 digit garbage that no one can remember. The only trouble there is sometimes you have to be careful to make sure that password actually gets stored correctly. Some sort of services where their registration page is not the same as the service page, you can get yourself into...
Oh, yes, I've come across that.
Point where you do it and then you go to the login and the keychain won't show you what the password is, or so passwords are a dreadful technology, really.
But we've got
Yep. Okay, so here we are. Traditional multi-factor and two-factor password managers are all trying to improve legacy architecture rather than taking a step back and saying, we're flooded with names and passwords, we need to re-architect the way it's all done. So there we are. That's on Fortune. Whether that will go anywhere, I don't know. I mean, effectively, they're saying... your phone or whatever becomes a security token which you use to log in, and the fact that you can, your phone is usually now biometrically protected one way or another, is probably one of the most secure ways you can do it. And if it works, good for them.
The trouble is, if you lose your phone, then of course you lose access to everything, including your bank account and
Yeah, no doubt we'll have to have vaults full of backup, emergency
passwords,
passwords or something. But I suppose that's still, I guess, not having to work with passwords most of the time still got to be better than nothing. Because many people just continue to basically use absolutely terrible passwords and then use them everywhere, and that just leads to credential stuffing and all sorts of unpleasantness.
I can't believe how different it's been since I got the original XR and the 11. Face ID is just magical. Just being able to authenticate yourself into a log into an app, and
yes,
it's just wonderful.
I mean,
I know it's only put your thumb on it, but oh wow,
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, there we are. What else have we got? I'll tell you what, Nick, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll go over to John Nemo in the hardware store whilst you and I get a cup of tea, and then we'll come back and do some more stories, shall we?
Sounds good.
Okay, over to John then. Take it away.
I've mentioned a catalog site called The Grommet fairly often here on Nemo's Hardware Store. TheGrommet, thegrommet.com. They specialize in lifestyle and personal tech items that they have selected. They sent us a bunch of stuff this week that is a combination of technology and lifestyle. First one is called the Yunmai Premium Smart Scale. The website is iYunmai, iYunmai.com. But you'll see the links in our show notes from The Grommet, going to be posted here on our website on Essential Apple for this episode. $70 for the premium smart scale. You download the app that takes a few seconds, then you step on the scale, and next thing you know, you can find your body weight, body fat percentage, body water percentage, body fitness age, body mass index, muscle rate, bone mass percentage, basal metabolic rate, protein percentage, and visceral fat. It gives you all those readings on the app. And you can have loads of different people on the same app using the same phone or different phones connected to it using Bluetooth. It's really very easy to set up. The only switch I needed to make was going from metric to pounds. Aside from that, which I had to look up on the internet, it was very easy. And it turns out I have all those things, body mass index and all that stuff. This scale really does it all very, very quickly because the app communicates so efficiently with Bluetooth. The physical scale is black, very attractive. Look at it on the website from our links here on Essential Apple. That's the premium smart scale, $70. Company is Yunmai, and our website for the catalog where they present it and who provides it for us is thegrommet.com. I don't normally weigh myself and check these other measurements, but I'm certainly fascinated by all these recordings that I can get literally in 2 seconds from stepping on the scale. It's got a good printed written manual in English, very easy to navigate app, good questions and answers. It's just a really nice job that they've done on the Yunmai Premium Smart Scale and app from the Grommet. The second item from the Grommet is called the Power Station 360 Surge Protector. They sent us the white one. The black one is currently out of stock. It's a very substantial disc, a cylinder, about 1.5 inches high and about 6-7 inches across around with a power on-off switch. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 American US power outlets, the grounded ones. And then it has 1, 2, 3, 4 USB ports, suitable for charging up your iPad, your iPhone, your anything, your speakers, headphones, whatever you charge up. So it's an integrated unit. You must look at the picture on the website. It doesn't look as big as it is. This thing is quite substantial. You can even turn it over on the back, and there's 2 slots where you can mount it on a wall or on any surface that you want, actually, because they do provide 2 hook screws that you can use to screw it in to a suitable surface. This is going to be so great in my studio classroom because I can now have 6 people plugged into it. Everybody knows which plug is theirs. Then they can have 4 different USB devices charging at once. This is going to replace a lot of much smaller and more awkward and much less robustly designed power outlets and USB ports. It includes 4,000 joule surge protection, has a lifetime $75,000 connected equipment warranty. Wow. And there's a nice description on the website on the Grommet. The company who makes it is called Limitless Innovations, LIMITLESSINNOVATIONS. Limitless Innovations is the company, and the brand is the Charge Hub Power Station 360 Multi-Port Surge Protector. Very impressive. I've seen ads for these types of products for a few years now, but to actually have one in front of me, I really underestimated how substantial and massive and well-built and rugged it is, including a durable 6-foot, 2-meter American 3-prong power plug. So that's it from Nemo's Hardware Store this week. Thank you to the Grommet for providing the Yunmai Premium Smart Scale and the Charge Hub Power Station 360 Multiport Surge Protector. First one is $70. The second one is $60 in the U.S. These will give you value for a long, long time. Back next week.
Thank you, John, for that hardware store. John has asked me specifically to point out that he did not mention that the scales can interface with your Apple Health, your Google Fit, your Fitbit, and various other apps. So if you're interested in the body mass scales, they can connect to your Apple Health applications. And the Power Hub, he said he forgot to mention that the main body of the Power Hub has big rubber feet on the bottom to prevent it sliding about on the desk, which, if you're like me, is something you've probably experienced in the past. A lot of those power delivery hubs or whatever will skate about on your desk, something chronic. In the past, I've often resorted to either self-adhesive Velcro or that weird sticky plastic non-slip mat. But there we go. Apparently no need on that one. It's fitted with its own non-slip rubber feet. There we are.
Always a good idea.
Always a good idea indeed. In fact, my my personal bedside, multi-charger, I wrote to the manufacturers and said, I really like your charger. It really works really well. But you could have fitted it with some kind of non-slip bottom, because I've had to, double-sided tape it down to my bedside cabinet to stop it falling off every 2 seconds. There we are. And they were like, "Oh, we might bear that in mind." Yeah, you do that. Anyway, what have we? Oh, there's one more Apple story we didn't do. Apparently, if you have an iPhone 6S or 6S Plus, manufactured between October 2018 and August 2019, so you've got to have bought it very recently. It's got to be a new one. It may stop powering on due to a possible faulty component. If that happens, Apple promise they will fix it for you for free. Apparently a faulty component has got into the supply chain, but it only applies to phones between those dates. So if your 6S is in that range and it stops working, contact Apple and they'll fix it for you. There we go. So, Nick, you might remember that I mentioned the Amazon Loop the other day. Can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
Last week.
The finger ring.
Yes, the
thing,
finger ring, the
yeah.
Amazon finger ring, which you can use to. Now, I was incorrect. I was under the impression that it was part of the glasses frames, which is what I said about it on the show. That's not true. Having looked into it further, it is in fact a standalone device. The idea is that you activate it by pressing on it. You then hold your hand up in front of your mouth and speak to it, and then cup your hand near your ear to hear the answer. In and of itself, neither a good nor bad way, I suppose, to talk to your lady. Designed for short interactions, according to Amazon. Obviously, things like what's my next appointment or the like. However, apparently at the moment it's only available by invitation only, i.e. for developers, I guess. And it's $129, and its normal price will be $179. To which my answer is, you're having a bloody laugh. Really?
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd want it to either do a hell of a lot more or be a hell of a lot cheaper before I'd even consider such a thing. And as I said in the Slackroom, not because it's an Amazon Echo device. If it was an Apple device, I'd still be saying you've got to be joking. Really? There we are.
One of the clever things about the headphones I'm using at the moment, I bought a little while ago. They're Sony noise cancelling earphones. And one of the features I like about it is that you can have pass-through sound. So now I'm using it now with the pass-through sound on, which means that it is actually picking up my voice clearly. So I can hear myself talking, even though I've got my headphones on. But one of the best things, I think, really clever design is because you were talking with that loop about putting it cupping your hand over your ear, is that if you cup your hand over the left ear cup on these headphones, it turns off the noise cancelling. So if you're on an aeroplane and the stewardess talks to you and you can't hear her, all you have to do is cup your hand over the earpiece, and it turns it off so that you can hear. I thought someone had obviously thought that through pretty carefully.
Yeah,
that was clever.
That's nice. I like that. That's a bit like putting your hand over your watch face, isn't it? To silence it.
Similar sort of idea. Yeah.
I mean, Android had the thing of turning your phone face down to put it into do not disturb mode, which I would also thought was quite clever.
That was clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like these little things that they add into tech to make them just that little bit more useful.
Yeah, exactly. So the Amazon Loop. Well, yeah, £30 to £50.
Good luck to them.
Yeah, £30 to £50, maybe. I mean, I probably wouldn't buy one anyway, but you know what I mean. For what it does,
you could get the dot and sort of strap it to your wrist.
Yeah, well, you could get.
That'd be cheaper.
No, I mean, yeah, really. I mean, are you so? Are you really so thin that you can't lift up your phone and speak to it, or?
We'll see.
We shall see.
It does sound a little bit like let's throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, doesn't it?
As a concept, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike it. I mean, in a way, it's like saying I want the sort of the Hey Siri functionality of AirPods, but without having to wear earphones. But I wouldn't pay that sort of money for it.
No.
Just wouldn't. Apple or Amazon or anybody else for that matter. I just don't think it's worth that sort of money. There you go. I guess some people have got money to throw away. There we are. And talking about earphones and the like, as it were, Microsoft announced a whole load of items, and we'll go back and talk about those in a minute. But they specifically announced some Surface earbuds, which actually look sort of reasonably clever. They have a touch surface control. They go in your ears. They're twin wireless earbuds, and they look like a white. Well, I guess what you'd say, they look like your Apple Watch charging puck. That's what they look like on the outside, anyway. And the surface is a touch-sensitive surface, so you can control them with swiping and touching and so on. The thing that put me right off them, though, is the price. They're asking $250.
Oh.
Yeah, 250. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of technology in there, but I mean, I thought AirPods were pricey at what, $150, $160?
Yeah. I find it quite ironic, actually, that for quite a long time, people have been a bit embarrassed by wearing plugs in their ears effectively to earpieces to boost their hearing. And they've been getting smaller and smaller and smaller because people don't want to be conspicuous. And this seems to be going in exactly the opposite direction. Let's make it as big as possible so that everyone notices it.
Yeah, well, obviously the outside surface of this is round and a bit, flat. Sort of, I don't know, by the photographs, probably about the size of a draft piece, a checker piece, if you're in the US.
It's a little bit like dangly earrings, but in your ear.
Yes, that's exactly right. And apparently, as a result of this, Will.i.am is not happy. He put a piece on Twitter. Will.i.am. He's accusing Microsoft of having stolen his idea. Those of you who have long memories might remember that Will.i.am had some earphones called buttons, which were in-ear wireless earphones, but they were connected with a cord with the controls on the cord, so they were not true wireless. They were a pair on a cable. And the only resemblance I can see is that if you look at pictures of his buttons, they had a cosmetic metal disc on the outside, about the same size. but that was purely for fashion/cosmetic purposes. So other than the fact that these are round, I cannot see any resemblance between the Microsoft Surface earbuds.
How dare they make something round? I've made something round once.
Yes, and by the way, his came in black, gold, silver, and rose. The Microsoft ones only come in white. Or at least as far as I can tell, they only come in a gloss white. And Will.i.am has taken exception to that as well, claiming that that's some kind of racist slur. So I think you might be going off. I think you might be going off the deep end there.
It does sound a bit strange.
I am deluded. Yeah. Sorry. I don't dislike Will.i.am. I think he's an absolute idiot, but that's, I don't dislike the man. He wants to continue to believe he's a technical wizard and come up with incredibly stupid products. That's up to him. Will.i.am himself, I'm afraid, is no technical guru. Sorry. There we are. Microsoft surprises with a new dual-screen Surface Duo /Neo. Because obviously Microsoft had an event and they released or announced, I should say, not released, as well as the Surface earbuds. There was a Surface Pro 7, a Surface Laptop 3, and then these two Surface products, the Duo, which is a folding phone running Android, and a Surface Neo, which is a tablet. Now this has come up before, Nick, but this I think is we can both put our hands up and go, sir, I said that first, sir. In fact, I think we should start a class action suit. To be honest, a class action suit. You stole it off me. How dare you,
right.
Microsoft?
My idea.
It was my idea because what's interesting about these two products is they are folding products, but they do not have a folding screen. They work.
Yeah, which makes a lot more sense.
Yes, this is the thing that we've talked about before, Nick. They are dual screen devices which fold so that the two screens butt up in the middle, although also part of their spiel is that the idea is not so much that you run it as a single screen device, but that you actually run it as a dual screen device so that you can have one app on one side and something else on the other.
I can see that being quite useful. I mean, think about being in a lecture, for instance, and wanting to make notes, but being able to see the layout for what the lecturer is going to talk about next to you, so you can make notes next to it and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's quite a good idea.
I'm now whether or not Microsoft will do their usual trick of demoing something that catches everybody's attention, and then
doing nothing with it,
and then releasing a broken implementation. I mean, the one that springs immediately to mind was their sort of fold down drawing desk iMac type device. Which everybody went absolutely, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah. Then when they shipped it, it was powered by a underpowered mini PC in the base. Which...
I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, the concept was wonderful, but as you say, then launched it with effectively a laptop, not only just a laptop, but a poor laptop processor in it.
Well, yeah, it would be a bit. It was kind of the equivalent of announcing the iMac Pro and then saying, but it's powered by two Mac Minis, and
yes.
or it's running off.
Even that would have been.
Or it's running off
even that wouldn't be that bad because the Mac Minis can get quite powerful now. But I know what you're saying. Yeah,
they nerfed it by running it off a pathetic, processing system, which just struck me as crazy. Why go to all that trouble? And then anyway, so these two Surfaces, they've been announced, but they're not available yet. Obviously, they're saying to developers, that they need to work on supporting a dual screen thing and so on. I've got a link to The Verge, which discusses it at fairly.
The other interesting thing, of course, is that they've, not surprisingly, they're not going back to their own operating system. They're using Android.
Yes. Now, I wasn't quite clear here. Is it only the phone, the Duo phone, which runs Android, or do they both run on Android?
I don't know.
No, I wasn't clear.
But that would make sense. It's the phone running on Android.
But yes.
Perhaps the other thing is is running on Windows
S.
I don't know.
But I don't know because I didn't check deeply enough into it. Yeah, interestingly, yes, you're well done for bringing that up. The Duo phone is going to run on a version of Android. I'm not sure about that. Could that could be could doom it, or on the other hand, it could be his salvation, couldn't it? Because you're, rather than trying to launch something from the ground up, you're presenting a new form factor device, but into an already expansive and thriving ecosystem.
Yeah,
it means it would have access to, because let's face it, I'm sorry, what killed the Windows Phone was lack of apps. You couldn't get the apps.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was what
I've just had a quick look on one of these links. The Neo, which is 2 9-inch screens, that's going to be running Windows 10X.
10X, okay, so they've made a special
10X.
version of Windows for that then.
Yes, and the Surface Duo is 2 5.6-inch screens, and that's going to be running Android OS.
Yes, it's the phone is running on Android, and the tablet is going to run on a modified version of Windows. Then interesting.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see where they go. I mean, I've seen some of these Microsoft's small Surface jobs, and they're not bad pieces of kit, really.
No,
some of them are very thin.
Very
thin indeed.
I have been in Dixon's PC world and had a look at them, and they don't.
I think their main failings, have always been the fact that Apple built this huge infrastructure and keeping the iPad separate, even though it's running the same OS, but developing different apps even though they had the large apps to start with, actually developing a different feel for the iPad was what's made it so successful. And now, of course, they've hived it off into a different OS altogether. Well, yeah, not exactly altogether, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
It is a different OS.
They are. It has different features and different. It has the split screen and the slide over and a whole load of other things you can do.
So they're still keeping the differentiation between those two things. They're not trying to design something that will work across everything. What they're doing is actually creating individual experiences that basically run from the same core code, which is very clever.
Yeah.
So whether Microsoft will.
Well, Microsoft have been building this, I forget what they call it, Microsoft One, Microsoft Core. I don't know, I can't remember now. But they're working on the same kind of idea that they could have a Microsoft Core, which would expand from, the simplest devices up to your full-blown desktop. But I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. The Neo really interests me. The Duo phone doesn't interest me in the least. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bad product. It just means it doesn't really appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. But it might appeal to a lot of people. Whether or not Android will be, its salvation or its doom is yet to be determined.
Yeah, remains to be seen.
Because the problem is Android's never really done anything on tablets apart from the very cheapest.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There isn't really an Android tablet OS type.
No, there never has been. And so apart from those sort of really cheap 7-inch jobs that you bought for 30 quid and used to watch YouTube, the Android tablet never really went anywhere. The only one I would say, is the Amazon Fire, but of course that's modified. that's an it's an Android tablet at its core, but it's heavily dependent on the Amazon ecosphere. So there we are. What else have we got? Well, we're coming to the end, and I know you're going to run out of time soon, Nick. So we have a feel-good story. We like feel-good stories, don't we? We like feel-good stories. Paralysed man walks again thanks to brain-controlled exoskeleton. You can find this all over the place, but I've linked to BGR because they had the best result, the best report I could find, rather than just showing you the video and saying paralysed man walks again. They've got some depth of reporting there, apparently explaining how they went about it. They didn't just plug him into this thing and off he went. They started off by putting, electrodes into his brain. And then he spent about 18 months, apparently, learning how to control, a cartoon character in a virtual environment, which they used as a way both to train him and to train the software. And then there is a video of him. To say walking again is slight exaggeration, I would say. He is walking in this exoskeleton, which is suspended from the ceiling by wires, connected to rails. But don't in any way let that, detract from the good story here. I mean, this is a man who is paralysed basically from the shoulders down, and he is walking in with the aid of a brain-controlled exoskeleton.
Apparently, I read somewhere that the most difficult bit was actually moving his arms, because your arms can move in a lot more ways, as it were. That was actually the hardest bit, is to actually get his arms to work. Yes, surprisingly.
And I'm not taking away from it by saying he's suspended from the ceiling either, by the way, because
it still feels a bit like science fiction, doesn't it?
It does.
Amazing.
I mean, people fully abled people who have worked with robotic exoskeletons have always said that you have to be very careful, because obviously as it amplifies all your movements, an unwary twitch of your foot could flick you over. So, a man who's actually paralysed and walking through a brain-machine interface, I'm not surprised they've, for safety purposes, made sure he's kept upright by cables. But, I'm sure in time, let's face it, as you said before the show,
maybe another 20, 30 years, who knows?
Well, often these things are underestimated. These things often move a lot faster once somebody makes a breakthrough. So well done him, well done the developers. I think that's a good news story.
Absolutely.
There we are. And I think we'll pretty much round it up now, Nick. So what have we got? I think we've covered pretty much all of it now. I've just got a Pixelmator. Pixelmator over the last week have gone berserk, releasing updates. Pixelmator Photo for the iPad had a major 1.1 update with iOS 13 support, batch editing, file handling, and more. I've linked to the digital photo review article. Pixelmator Pro have added a discount upgrade program for people who own the original Pixelmator. And Pixelmator Pro 1.5 is almost ready with Mac OS Catalina, Mac Pro Display XDR support, machine learning denoising, and much more. So there we go. And there's a beta for that. It's been out for a while, but if anybody's interested in getting on that, they can follow the link. And for anybody who's got the original Pixelmator and isn't interested in upgrading, even that got an update this week. So there we are. That is probably pretty much everything. We were talking earlier about controllers, and I meant to refer to this. The Worth a Chirp essential tip for this week, Nick, is iPhone in Canada have a piece on how to pair your DualShock PS4 or Xbox wireless controller with your Apple TV, iPhone or iPad, obviously for the purposes of exploring Apple Arcade. So if anybody wants to know how to do that,
get onto that. Yeah.
Yep. Link in the show notes. And just a snippet, I've got a couple of things here. Pages, faxes and checks, things which might seem obsolete but aren't, from the BBC News, worth a bit of a giggle. The one that did seem a little bit bizarre to me is apparently audio cassettes are making a comeback. They're having a renaissance. Heaven
A little bit like
knows
vinyl
why.
records.
Well, yeah, but vinyl records I can understand. Let's face it, audio cassettes were always a kludge at the best of times. So
Yes.
no, I don't. I have no love for audio cassettes, I'm afraid. Even in the article, they say those of us of a certain age can remember them as no more of a horror of mangled tapes and cracked
Yeah.
cases. But there we
That's
go.
right. You always had to have a pencil handy.
Yes. I don't know if whoever designed those had, made sure that an HB pencil was the perfect spanner to wind the cogs with or not, or whether
You
that was
probably
just
did. Yeah.
pure chance. But there we are. Yeah, that's amusing. Faxes and pages apparently also are not obsolete, mostly because the NHS uses them to a vast extent, although the NHS has been told to stop doing so. There we are. And then there's one here for which my comment is OMG, WTF, ROTFL, RUKM, BBQ, 111, whatever. A man is apparently suing Apple because he's claiming his iPhone turned him gay. I won't go into the details, but it's somewhat hilarious and yeah, it's like, are you kidding me? You did something and you say it's because you have an iPhone. No, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm going to sue Apple because they've turned me into a geek.
Yeah.
I'm sure I wasn't a geek before the Apple. And I'm not sure I can prove that actually.
No, I'm not sure. And perhaps I haven't put it in here. No, I don't think I've put the link in. A judge in the US has basically ruled that nobody gives a monkeys about the notch on the screens of the notched iPhones, and this has dealt a blow to the possibility of a class action suit against Apple, claiming that they misrepresented the screen size on said phones.
Hurrah for common sense.
Yeah, this isn't apparently enough to necessarily scupper it, but it's not done it any favours. He said, I believe, I don't think anybody in the US really cares. So there we are.
Nice one.
Yep. And as I say, that's about it. You can follow me on Twitter as @Serenak, and that's SERENAK. The show is at Essential Apple, although I don't use that anywhere near as much as I should. You can find all of our stuff over at essentialapple.com. Tanya Vert from Beelight gifted us 4 copies of Amadine to give away. Ooh. That's their vector drawing application, which they recently released. We have 4 licenses to give away, and in the usual manner, if you want to put your name in the hat to win a copy, email essentialapple@sudomail.com, and that's SUDO mail.com. Don't forget that if you are interested in photography, Mac Jim in our Slack room has started a family-friendly Flickr group for listeners to share their photos and talk about photography. So if you're interested, head over to the Essential Apple Flickr, link in the show notes, and request an invitation from Jim. Thank you, as usual, to everybody who supports the show via the Patreon, via the Pinecast tips jar, by using the Amazon affiliate link. The big red button is on the website for that. And I think that's about it. So promote yourself away, and then we will wrap the show up.
Okay, so you can find me occasionally on Twitter, and you'd find me under Spligosh, SPLIGOSH. And you can hear me probably next week sometime on Bot Show as well. Let's Talk Apple.
Yep, well, I know you're recording that shortly, and knowing about that will actually quite likely be out by tomorrow lunchtime, to be honest. Unlike this show.
Yes, he's turns around quickly.
Yeah, unlike this show, which will probably end up coming out about Wednesday. So there you go. When you hear me saying that Nick is going to be on Let's Talk Apple, you will probably already listen to it before you hear this. But there we go.
Yes.
That's the magic of podcasting and the weirdness of time shifting. So on that on that note, I think we should just shut up and bugger off, Nick. All right then, everybody. Until next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple Podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac Podcasting Network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac Podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club Podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchot's and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
So it is never late, Fred Beckins, or is he early? He arrives precisely when he means to, and usually listening to the Tech Fan Podcast with Tim Robertson and David Cohen, part of the Stoplight Network.
This has been the Essential Apple Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to you joining us again another time. Until then, goodbye.